Well, hello, guys. Hope everybody's having a great day. Down here in South Alabama, in the little city of Lynette, it is a rainy and dreary and grayish looking day. It's the kind of day that is just, it can pull you down if you're not careful. And I get to thinking about that, right? And just so you know, I'm not down today, and I hope you're not down today. But the truth is, when we look at the world round about us, sometimes it's easy to get pulled down, right? We look at all the things that are going on in the world and the craziness that's going on in the world and the things that just fly in the face of not only God, but fly in the face of just good old decent common sense. And it's easy to get down and out. And then you look at the church, and there's a lot of things that happen in the church, and people are not as involved as they ought to be or dedicated as they ought to be, and it seems like they're going through the motions. And I certainly don't mean to judge anyone else, because that's not my place. That's God's place, right? But really and truly, Christians should never just be going through the motions. So what do you do when you just look around and you get to feeling like, what's the point? What's the point? And it you see all these things going on, it makes you want to kind of turn south and not head in the right direction, not do the right thing. And I can remember coming across a quote, and I don't remember where it came from, so you know I can't give credit where credit is due, but it's certainly not original with me, and it stuck with me, and I've tried to teach it to my kids. And basically, the quote said this: "You cannot control what goes on around you, but you can control how you react to what goes on around you." And that was a valuable lesson for me at the time. And like I said, it stuck with me, obviously, because all these decades later, it's still with me. And I've tried to instill that in my kids, because so much of what goes on in the world we don't have control over, right? I don't have control over any other person. I can try to influence them, but I have control over any other person and what they do. I don't have control over what's going on in the world. So I see a lot of things going on, and I can't necessarily control those things. The only thing I can control is how I react to those things. And Jesus spoke about that very early on in the Sermon on the Mount. He starts off with the Beatitudes and says, if you want to be a good Christ follower, here's the attributes you need. But he goes right from those attributes, right, the Beatitudes, to what he says in Matthew chapter 5, beginning in verse 13. He says, "You're the salt of the earth, but if salt loses its flavor, how shall it be seasoned? It is then good for nothing, but to be thrown out and trampled underfoot by men. You are the light of the world. A city that's set on a hill cannot be hidden. Nor do they light a lamp and put it under a bushel, but on a lampstand, and it gives light to all who are in the house. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven." Here's what I think Jesus meant by that. Guys, I'm calling you to be something different, right? He gives those Beatitudes there in the beginning. That's the kind of people I'm looking for. It's this kind of people that are going to be in the kingdom. These are kingdom people. And I need my kingdom people to realize that they're going to be living in a world that doesn't follow kingdom principles. They're going to be living in a world that's going to be difficult for them to pilot sometimes, because the world is going to be so different from them. And when you get in that situation where it's difficult and the world's different, and I can choose to go along to get along, or I can choose to stay the path. Jesus is saying, guys, you need to stay the path, and here's why you need to stay the path: because you're the salt, you're the seasoning, you're something that adds and influences and makes a difference, right? You put salt in something, it permeates the entire dish that you put it in, right? It flavors the entire thing. It makes a difference. You take the salt out, and it's bland. There's nothing there to influence. There's nothing there to make a difference. So we're supposed to be out there making a difference. We're supposed to be out there showing a better way, even when it's difficult, because the world needs to see a better way. And I mean, he kind of explains it there in the end, and we'll come back to that. But he doesn't just say salt, your seasoning that influences and flavors. He also says light. We shine the light of truth on things. So when you see the chaos that's going on in the world, and I could start naming things, but you all know what I'm talking about. We've got things going on in our world that just don't make good old common sense, much less follow in line with God. When you look at those things, and you'll be like, just throw up your hands. There's nothing I can do. I'm just one person. Or you can say, you know what? I can shine my little bit of truth on that situation and all other situations. I can just be out there preaching and teaching the message of Jesus, letting that light shine. And when that light shines for people, they can see the truth and they can be drawn to the truth. I mean, light draws, right? That's what it does. It draws people to it. It shines down and exposes falsehood and shows forth the truth. So we're supposed to be salt. We're supposed to be light. We're supposed to be out there influencing. We're supposed to be out there showing people what the truth is in spite of what the world says. Because the world's going to continue to say things that are not true. The devil has his influence, and his influence is going to be peddled. And we've got to be out there just doing what we can do. And yes, we're only one person, but when you add 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1, right? Isn't that what they did in the first century? And they did it so well that in the book of Acts, which we've already talked about, these that have turned the world upside down, or I would say rather turned it back right side up, because the world had the world turned upside down. We've got to have an influence. And after he says what he says about salt, and after what he says about light, he says, let your light so shine, let that salt so flavor before men that they may see your good works. All right, so we got to be out there doing the right thing. We got to be out there doing good things in spite of what the world is doing, so that we can have that influence, so that we can show the truth. And here's the whole point. Get out there and be salt. Get out there and be light, so that men may see your good works, because the whole point is to glorify your Father in heaven. See, that's the whole point. It's not about telling people, hey, I have a better way than you. It's not about telling people, hey, I've got it figured out and you don't. It's about telling people, look, there is a better way out there. And it's got nothing to do with me. It's got everything to do with God. It's got everything to do with Jesus. And when you choose the Jesus path, it makes a difference in your life. When you choose the Jesus path, everything in your life is going to be better. You know, I remember a Christian man telling me one time, he said, I'm so sick of hearing Christians talk about how hard the Christian life is. He said, I've been a sinner and I've been a Christian, and he said, I've lived the sinner's life, and that's the hard life. He said, the Christian life, that's the good life. And he's very right about that. Even when we go through trials and tribulations as Christians, the path of Jesus is the best path to choose. So that's why we got to get out there and be salt, guys. That's why we got to get out there and be light, so the world can see that there is a better path. There is a better way. And it's just one person at a time. One person at a time. Influence the people that you interact with as you go throughout your daily lives. That's what Jesus said in the Great Commission. Go. Right? He said go. But what he meant by that is, as you are going, wherever you go, as you're going, be salt. As you're going, be light. Be an influence. Shine the light of truth for Jesus Christ, and you will make a difference in the world. And guys, we just have to remember that. No matter how difficult it seems sometimes, and no matter how tempted we are to just say, what's the point? I'm going to give up. We just got to keep on keeping on. So that's our message for today. I hope and pray you're having a good day. If it's rainy and dreary where you are, just hang in there and keep on keeping on. And if you have to get out, be safe, be careful. Love you guys, and I'll see you again soon.